The Cardiff Devils were great last season. Fans should be happy with the performance of the team. Pete Russell's first term in red have been encouraging. I think there is good reason to be optimistic in Wales. But now it's time to build upon last season. And that starts with the post-mortem. They were excellent last year, but they came second place to the juggernaut that was the Sheffield Steelers. Across the league they placed second in goals for, with 210, compared to the Steelers' 228. They came third in goals against, with 151. Just slightly trailing the Giants' 147, and the Steelers' incredible 113. So what is the answer? The best defense is a good offense. Perhaps they can outscore the opposition? Or do they need to just tighten up in all areas of the game, if they want to take home some silverware this season? Let's look ahead at what has been assembled for this upcoming season, and make some predictions. Let's start in net. Mac Carruth is back. When he played for the Devils in 2020-2021, he finished with 51 games played, a 2.15 goals against average, and a 93.53 save percentage. Which are outstanding numbers. In the 2 years he has been away from the team he has played in Denmark with the Herning Blue Foxes. This yielded mixed results, a really strong debut season, but last year he struggled with a down year. He is still young at 32, that is prime time for a goalie. There is no reason to suggest he cannot come in and be an excellent starter this season. Will he replicate his previous numbers with the Devils? I'm not so sure, but either way he will be an excellent starter. After a great year last year, Ben Bones has likely been demoted to the backup role, or at least the 1B option in a tandem. I do believe Russell would like to share the starts out somewhat. In 32 league games last season he closed out with an impressive 92.38 save percentage and a 2.59 goals against. Which are excellent numbers, but you can see why the Devils would want to upgrade the net minding if you want silverware. Greenfield, Wenninger and arguably Owen and Whistle played better in my opinion. He was great, but not a world beater. How will he fare in a tandem role? Goalies can be hard to predict, some need to play a lot of games to get into a rhythm. If he can replicate those numbers in a backup or 1B role, I think this tandem looks excellent. Moving to the blue line, you can't look past the return of Cardiff legend, Gleeson Fournier. He has played parts of 5 seasons for the Welsh side, and if we exclude his first season, he is an above point per game defenseman, and is clearly Crawford replacement. This is your top power play guy, and puck mover. I love the way this guy can skate and shoot the puck. This guy loves to score. He has a better Corsi percent with the Devils than Crawford did, along with a better net expected goals for. Many would argue this is an upgrade. For me personally, with their respective ages, I would say this was a lateral move. Paired with him, I have Evan Mosey on the right. Many would have Donaghy, and that is totally plausible. But we know Mosey can take on a lot of defensive responsibility, and this is a guy Russell trusts to log big minutes. He averaged 22 minutes a night last season. Fournier and Mosey could just be one of the most lethal pairings in the league. Talking of Donaghy, I have him on the right side of the second pair. And I want to see more from him this season. He had a few different partners through the season, but closed out often playing with Bode Wild on the second pair. He is such a good shot, posting 10 goals as a blue liner, and putting up 38 points in 58 games. If paired with a steady stay-at-home defender, Donaghy could thrive jumping into the play and utilizing that shot. Speaking of steady stay-at-home defenders, I have him alongside newcomer Andrew McWilliam. This is a big, heavy, strong defender, who is great in his own end. And he comes with some serious experience. Aged 34, he has NHL experience with the Maple Leafs and had 413 games of American Hockey League experience in Toronto, Rochester, Albany, and Manitoba. Those are some intense markets to be a steady D-man in. He is going to bring order to this top 6. I could see a world where he is a top pair guy, perhaps with Fournier. But I would try to avoid having 2 left shots and 2 right shots together in the top 6. Let's keep guys on their natural sides, especially for defenders. The third pair starts with Mark Richardson, steady as ever. We know what he brings to the team, but with signing 7 defensemen this season, I wonder if they aim to reduce his minutes somewhat, or healthy scratch him to get him some rest at times. He will be 38 when the season begins, and we noticed last season he lost a step offensively. He is still solid, but perhaps in a reduced role. Paired with him I have Jared Gorley. I like that they have added a younger guy. The blue line needed it. He and Donaghy are the only 2 defenders under 32 years old. This is an older group. Bringing in a guy who is young and hungry to make a name for himself is good news. This guy can shoot the puck, similar to Donaghy in a way. They should get plenty of goal scoring from the back end here. He also carries some decent size at 6'2", 212 pounds. In 2022-23 this guy was an East Coast All-Star in his first year pro and has some AHL experience. He is an under-the-radar guy that could really make a splash. Josh Batch completes the group. I have him as the 7th man in. They have the Brit pack to be able to healthy scratch a Brit, but I think with Mosey being able to play forward as well, they may look to start 7D some nights and scratch a forward. Either way injuries happen, and Batch is going to play plenty of hockey this year. I found that he lost a bit of a step last year. Getting beat in transition more than you would like. He is still good, but perhaps Russell needs to utilize him better, and find a better role for him, on the penalty kill and in defensive draws. Perhaps this is why they signed 7 guys. So that's the defensive group. Overall I really like it, my only concern is age really. Have Mosey, Richardson and Batch all pass their peak? And will Fournier be able to replace Crawford? I do feel that it is a more rounded group than last year, but let's see how it goes. Now let's take a look at the forward group. Straight away, this top line looks incredible. It should be one of the best lines in the league, other than perhaps Conway, Picnic and whoever plays on their wing. Let's start with Hunter Shinkaruk. This is a guy who is half a point per game in the American Hockey League across 6 years. He knows how to put the puck in the net. 84 goals, in 325 games is seriously impressive at that level of competition. He has played NHL time and KHL time, so he has experience at the highest level in the world. What I love about his game is his speed and creativity. He will be a premier player and someone his line mates can pass the puck to. Down the middle I have Reed Duke. This is a guy who had a really successful junior career in the WHL, catching the eye of the Vegas Golden Knights, as an elite offensive threat. His pro career has seen mixed results in recent years, but if you watch him you can see the scoring touches there. He had a successful year last season with an above point per game clip in the Del 2, which is a league pretty comparable to the Elite League. 23 goals and 43 points, in 41 regular season games for them and leading his team in goal scoring. He also has the kind of pace that will pair nicely with Shinkaruk. This will be a high-flying line for sure, and one that can always score. Rounding out that top line is Zach O'Brien. He was a guy we all had at center, until Cardiff signed way too many centers. But that's a really good problem to have. I now have him on the wing, but with injuries and adjusting the lines don't be surprised if he still ends up at center at times. This is another guy who has scored at the highest levels. He has averaged half a point per game in 238 American Hockey League games. Similar to Shinkaruk. But he is a guy who thrives with more responsibility. In the East Coast League, which is very similar to the Elite League, he has 382 points in 309 games. That's 1.38 points per game on average. That includes an 87-point regular season. He is more of a pass-first kind of guy, but he can also shoot the puck when needed and is great in front of the net tipping pucks. Good thing we have him paired with 2 goal scorers. He should be a game breaker. Okay, let's move to the second line. I have Josh McDonald. Originally I had him on the top line, and I do think that could still happen. Him with O'Brien could be electric. But what I like about McDonald is he is a gamer. His feet don't stop moving and he is a well-rounded player. He can make plays but also shoot the puck. That's why I think he works well with Joey Martin, as he can do both effectively as well. This could be a pairing that defensive units just don't know what to do with. He has played under Russell before, and has won a Del 2 championship. So he knows how to show up in those big games. With strong numbers in the playoffs. Something the Devils have perhaps struggled with in recent years. At second line center I have Joey Martin. The perfect second line center in my opinion. He won't break scoring titles at this point, but he is a dependable guy, solid in all areas of the ice, and a real leader in the room. He had a bit of a down year last season with just 10 assists, but he still managed to put away 24 goals. The forward group at times struggled offensively, so I have no doubt with guys like McDonald on his wing he will recapture his offensive touch. Just a really solid signing. Rounding out the top 6, I have Koen Oleskiewski. This is where the controversy perhaps begins. You look at his game and there is a lot to like, but more so in a third line role I believe. This is where Perlini could step up, or perhaps a Ryan Barrow could push him down. But I think Russell likes his game and thinks there is more than meets the eye here. I will defer to Joe McCaig on this one, who thinks he is bound for a top 6 role, and expects Juusola-like production from him, a hard-working winger, who wins battles and makes an impact. I'm not as high on him, but I think he starts in the top 6 and we see what he can do. Line mates like McDonald and Martin will certainly help, and perhaps he can provide that heavy forechecking role that this line is potentially missing, the guy who wins board battles and gets the puck to dangerous areas. A bit like Juusola. On the third line we have some familiar faces, with Barrow, Bush, and Perlini. I'm surprised both Barrow and Bush are back. I felt it would be one or the other, most likely Bush with him being a center, but here they are. Barrow came in and did a job for the Devils, but couldn't match his production in Manchester. That's understandable with him playing a different role, but I think there is more to come from Barrow. He is a big, strong, power forward type, and perhaps with Bush and Perlini they can create some magic. Bush at third line center is decent but not amazing. Russell raved about his ability to play up and down the lineup, but personally I don't see him moving into the top 6 at any point this year. I would put Perlini and Barrow ahead of him on the depth chart for moving up, especially with the amount of centers they have. But he plays a role, he brings size and strength to this group, and perhaps they can make a nightmare third line that is hard to handle. He had 31 points in 53 games last season, and I think the Devils will want that to come up slightly. Rounding out the top 9 is Brett Perlini. A GB star that we all know and love. He is a really well-rounded player, and for me the top guy to move up into the top 6 given the chance. He carries good speed, high hockey IQ and above all can play center. So I make that 7 guys who can play the middle according to elite prospects. I have him on the wing to open the year, but Perlini is going to be a good addition to the depth scoring. With 155 points in 197 games for the Nottingham Panthers, he is a consistent point producer, and a guy that Russell knows really well. The fourth line starts with Ben Davis. He is one of the best fourth liners in the league, so dynamic and a guy who can step up into third line minutes when injuries happen. Super speedy, reliable presence. Sam Duggan is back, we know what he brings, leadership, a good guy in the room. Solid on the penalty kill, and a guy that I think there is still room for a big season from. Although he is 26 now and is likely fully developed as a player. Still a good fourth liner. And lastly, we have Riley Brandt, one of the more divisive players in the fanbase. Some love him, some hate him, but we know what he brings. A real boost of energy, he loves to play the body. He won't drive much offense, but has been known for a couple sneaky big goals every year. Isn't that exactly the kind of guy you want on your fourth line? So that's the squad ahead of the 2024-2025 season. Overall, what are my thoughts? The goaltending is solid, there shouldn't be any issues there. The defense looks more complete than in recent years, although a tad on the older side. I only really have 2 questions, can Fournier replace Crawford? I think yes, but time will tell. And secondly, can the Brit group continue at the same level? Time is undefeated. The forward group looks really strong, but I do have some concerns. The top-end defense looks outstanding, but I have concerns in the middle 6. Can Olszewski be a top 6 producer? And if he is, do they have enough firepower on the third line? Can they match the total scoring touch of some of the other teams? Pete Russell has done a good job of building this team out, and I expect them to be in the mix for silverware, along with the Steelers and Giants. But have they done enough to catch up with the Steelers? That, only time will tell. I have them finishing around 2nd or 3rd. But what do you, the fans, think? Is this a title-winning team? What are the potential weaknesses? What do you like or dislike about the team? And do I have the line combinations all wrong? How would you position this roster? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and take care.